I can't snap. Oscar. Directed by John Landis, released of April 1991 with a runtime of 1 hour and 49 minutes. Starring Sylvester Stallone, Marissa Tomei, Tim Curry, Pete Reichert, Chaz Palminteri, Elizabeth Barons, Ornella Muti, and Vincent Spano, and a whole load of others because this is more like a stage play. Had a production budget of $35 million and a domestic take of $23 million. Now, it doesn't have any international takings listed. I can't find them anywhere. It only lists the American box office, and I know they was released all over the world because I found the release dates for them. But since I can only work with the numbers I can find, I'm going to have to list this one as having a loss of $11 million. It's one of those weird things. I know it made more than that. I've heard it made more than that. But do you think I can find any proof of that? Nah. Oh well. Characters. Okay. There are a lot of players in this game. Seriously. But for the sake of time, I will touch on the ones with majority screen time. Angelo Snaps Provolone, played by Sylvester Stallone. He is the male lead. He is the big boss of this crime family. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun watching him play this largely comedic and line-driven role. So Snaps is the man trying to go straight. He's a crook. He's a gangster. And on his father's dying deathbed, he wants him to become a better man. And so you watch Snaps slowly lose his mind as he's trying to coordinate his family, his crime family, and all these other business deals into a legitimate lifestyle. And it's just not working out for him. And Angelo is great fun. He is just a frazzled, frustrated, cranky gangster who can't kill anyone when he's angry anymore. Then you've got Lisa Provolone, played by Marissa Tomei. Lisa is the daughter of Snaps, a very headstrong, determined, willful, rebellious, and problematic child. And Marissa Tomei delivers her perfectly. Really well done. Everywhere between gentle and endearing and wanting to be adventurous and go out and see the world, through to hardline, ruthless, and very much her father's daughter. She's got her own plot, her own angle, her own scam that she's running during this whole thing. Mainly against her dad. And it kind of works for her and largely doesn't. Vincent Spano as Anthony Rosano. He's the accountant. He's the bookkeeper for Snaps. And he knows all about Snaps' double dealings, crooked arrangements, dodgy investments, all the works. And he is a good, upright boy who's out there to marry the girl of his dreams and just happens to be, so he thinks, Snaps' daughter. I don't know if you could trust him, but you certainly want him working for you. Tim Curry as Dr. Poole. Dr. Poole is fantastic. He is so out of his depth. He's a linguistics teacher. He's there to teach Snaps Provolone how to speak properly, how to present himself well, because Snaps wants to be a banker. And so that's what Dr. Poole has been hired to do. Help Angelo Provolone communicate properly. And the miscommunications that come from this very upper class, uptight, super nerd Tim Curry style of character and the gangster Snaps is some gold there. And then Ornella Muti as Sophia Provolone. Snaps is very fiery, very feisty, and absolutely king of the castle wife. As far as support characters go, she's got to be one of my favorites. Just the way she overreacts in that wonderfully Italian way all through this movie. She fires up, she smolders, she's constantly on the boil, this one. You wouldn't call her a main character, but every time she's in the room, she's like a bonfire. So it's fun to have her there. Then you've got Teresa, played by Elizabeth Barons. Okay, this is the catalyst. This is the woman that turns up in Snaps' life and everything just explodes. And she's just so sweet. At no stage is she nasty or horrible or ruthless or mean or hard. No, she's just the sweetest girl, and she's all caught up in an absolute family disaster. It's good. Then you've got Pete and Chaz playing Aldo and Connie. I love these guys. Aldo and Connie are Snaps' primary henchmen. They're his soldiers. They've probably killed a lot of people when you think about it. But that's not the point. The point is that they are now butler and general house staff. and it's not fitting them very well. Aldo's great with his one-lines. He's very sarcastic, snarky, salty, stabby little comments, giving a pretty much a hard time to everyone, including Snaps as it goes along. And then you got Connie, basically a moron, um, who is very loyal and tries really hard and does his 100%. Unfortunately, Connie's 100% is pretty much everyone else's 60%. These two add a real flavor and a real flair to the movie. And I just love watching them. I will say that Chaz and Pete are probably the stars of this movie when it comes to superlative support acting. They really hold up every scene they're in. It's just great. So as for characters, look, I'm torn between giving this a 3.75 and an actual 4. Mainly because ever since I first saw this movie, thanks Mum, I have had these characters jammed in my brain. They're just stuck there. They're these archetypes that I've reused so often in so many games and stories and scenarios. Even the most limited character in this movie has a flair about them or has a signature persona about them that you remember. So yeah, I think I'm going to give this movie, for characters, a 4. Story. Okay, so this movie is adapted from a French movie, which is adapted from a screenplay, which was adapted from a book, I believe. And it feels like it. It is kind of complicated and somewhat convoluted, and you can get a little lost in this one. You've got to pay attention. It's like a MacGuffin hunt, but done in the style of a murder mystery. Let's see if I can make some sense of this. Snaps has been asked to go legit by his dying father. Snaps has agreed to this and made the promise to do so, much to the complete chaos and anxiety and just consternation of the entire crime family. That's the overarching theme. That's the background theme. You'd think that'd be the main theme, but oh no, it isn't. That's just the canvas for this disaster to be painted onto. Enter Anthony, requesting a raise so he can get married and provide his new wife the life she is accustomed to. Snaps is a little cagey on giving him the raise, but he agrees. And then he finds out it's his daughter that Anthony is in love with and wishes to propose to. Snaps reacts like an Italian father of the time and loses it. Runs upstairs to confront his daughter. The daughter bursts into tears. She's so happy. She's so sad. She desperately wants out of the house, but her dad won't let her. The dad's already picked out her future husband, and it's a very, very rich man from uptown. Now it gets complicated. Enter Teresa. Now, Teresa is the one that Anthony actually thinks is Snaps' daughter and actually is in love with, not Lisa. Anthony thinks that Teresa is Snaps' father because she lied to make herself look good in front of Anthony, wanting Anthony to think that she comes from a wealthy family. It's not until later that she found out he was a gangster. Anthony has promised to give a large sum of money as a down payment, a dowry. 50 grand, in fact, to buy into the family. Snaps wants the money, but not Anthony. But he'll take the money. Now, complicate things by Lisa saying that she's actually pregnant to her fiancé, which is a lie, just to maneuver her father into letting her get married. But it's not Anthony. But Snaps thinks it's Anthony. It's actually this other guy called Oscar, title character of the movie that you never actually see, who's done a runner because he can't stand the idea of being married into the Provolone family. So Anthony thinks he's marrying into the Provolone family via Teresa. Snaps thought he was proposing to Lisa. Lisa thinks that Oscar's come back, but it's actually Anthony, and Snaps now knows that it's not what it seems. And there's 50 grand in the mix here. So yeah, it all nice and complicated and gets all confused in there. And it goes round and round and round. As you've got Snaps trying to outmaneuver Anthony and Anthony trying to outmaneuver Snaps. Because Anthony finds out that Teresa is not actually related to Snaps. But Snaps has taken the money anyway. So now Anthony wants his money back and the girl. Snaps wants the girl. No. Snaps wants the money. And he wants Anthony to marry actually Lisa, so he doesn't have an unwed mother for a daughter. In amongst all this, you've got the priest turning up to just pay visits and then finds about the wedding and gets excited and involved as well. You've got a pair of tailors that keep turning up, trying to get Snaps Provolone dressed like a banker, ready for his banker interview. In the background, you have all the bankers conniving to steal Snaps' money and lock him out of the banking board. You've got the cops across the road running surveillance on Snaps, trying to figure out why he's been so quiet lately, and they really want to bust him. And you've got another group of gangsters, another crime family, wanting to make a move on Snaps as soon as he shows a sign of weakness. And this is all boiling along at the same time. Throw in the maid who hates Snaps, has quit, and is left to go and marry the man that Snaps originally wanted Lisa to marry. I think that's it. You end up with 3 black bags, all identical. One's got 50 grand in cash, one's got 50 grand in jewels, and one has the maid's underwear. So now the MacGuffin hunt is turned into an elaborate shell game as everyone's trying to get the money and dodge the underwear. And you can guess which one keeps turning up in Snaps' lap in inopportune moments. That's right, it's the underwear. So in amongst this maelstrom of crossing lines, threads, plots, subplots, these black bags, backwards, forwards, all over the shop, eventually culminating in all the bankers turning up from meeting, the cops arriving to arrest everyone because they think it's a mob hookup, the other gangsters arriving to kill everyone because they also think it's a mob hookup, all the black bags potentially in the house somewhere, and everything falling down around Snaps' ears. It all wraps up quite nicely, of course. I'm not going to tell you exactly how. You can probably figure it out. But it's worth watching through to the end anyway. And this is the sort of thing I love in a good story. This is really quite controlled chaos. I was going to say messy, but it's never messy. Oh, and they managed to stick a little musical number in there with a jazz piano. Why not? As for score, I'll be giving the story a 3.5. I would give it higher, except you can kind of see where it's going. It is predictable in the way it plays out. It is predictable in the way it presents, but it's the how, and there's all little fun surprises in there as well. It's just really well done. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to bump that to 3.75 because it really goes out of its way to throw you curveball after curveball, and actually genuinely surprising in a couple of places. I forgot about that. There's a couple of things in here that happen that you're just not expecting, and it just adds yet another unnecessary in many ways layer of confusion, but it's really, really nice. Look and feel. Well, to be honest, it looks and feels like a stage play because you've only got really 3 sets in one outdoor location. You got the Provolone house, you've got the apartment across the road the cops are in, and you've got the rival gangsters base. The apartment and the rival gangsters base are very minimalistic sets, 1 or 2 different angles, not much doing. Very detailed, look really nice, but they're not done much. Provolone's house, on the other hand, is well detailed. You're all over the place in this one. It's a very functional, very clever set with lots of doorways and steps and all these sort of things that they can use to direct traffic. Kind of felt a little bit like that Cluedo movie in that respect, but just not as clever as Cluedo, to be honest. You got the outside of the house on the street that they use for just establishing characters and some perspective shots occasionally. But other than that, it's generally focused on this really nice house. And it also very much feels like the era it's in. It's the suits, it's the cars, it's the guns, it's the style of talking. It's just the way everything is presented. It really, really does feel like a stage play set in that time frame. Prohibition era. That's when it's set. That's right. Yes, I just couldn't remember that word. Now, due to the fact it's meant to feel like a stage play, it's meant to feel like a very static sort of arrangement, then that's the sort of camera shots they use. Not a lot of dynamic stuff in this one. It's very straightforward, almost TV level shots, just straight on, side on, cut across. There's nothing too dynamic in the camera movements or the camera use. The use of the background music's quite good. Again, stage play sort of stuff. Almost pantomime level stuff. Apart from the jazz piano scene, which I really enjoyed. That was very cool, actually. Other than that, it's just fairly standard. There's nothing super spectacular about the look and feel, but there's nothing wrong with it. Everything is bang on. Wardrobe, props, everything, lighting, the lot. It's all pretty much a good movie. Good is a 3, and a 3 isn't bad. Script and dialogue. Busy. As you may have guessed, the script for this one is fast and everywhere. It's really quite complex and very, very clever. They spend a lot of time weaving a very strange pattern out of this. Watching Snaps' rising blood pressure and frustration level with the scenario is also very good. He is clearly getting less and less control and less happy about it, and it's really something. The pressure's building on him in a very funny way, and he's almost got a handle on it, and then his wife turns up, and then he doesn't have a handle on anything anymore. She hands out ultimatums like a field marshal. She's fantastic. And then all the interplay between everyone else. Every character's got something to say to someone else about something else. The miscommunication, watching the miscommunication spiral out, it is fascinating. It's a slow motion bus crash. And yet, then this bit'll fix, and then that bit'll fix. And you go, okay, they're fixed, and then it doesn't fix, because then this happens and unravels again. Some of the highlights come from Connie and Aldo when they're engaging with Snaps, and just Snaps having to deal with these two, particularly Connie, and just the way Connie is so out of his depth, but doing his very, very best to keep up. And the Lisa Teresa routine, also good. Everyone trying to figure out where this Snaps suddenly get this second daughter from, that he's telling everyone that he has, because he really wants that money now. Which ends up being his own money that he wants back eventually as well. I think that's right. 50 grand that Anthony's got, the 50 grand that Anthony stole. Yeah. They take it in some unusual directions as well, particularly between Lisa and Dr. Poole. That was unexpected and very cool. Teresa, and then of course Teresa's mother turns up, mother of Teresa. They do play on that joke. You got Aldo being snarky and upset about being a butler. Then you got all the other gangsters in the house that are really confused at what Snaps is doing and very clearly not coping so well with this legitimate lifestyle they're now being forced into as house staff. I don't think I've seen a more dangerous looking cook since Under Siege. Dr. Poole's use of higher English language, his assumption that other people know what he's talking about, then everyone else not really knowing what he's talking about at all, and then you'll have other people using his words that they've misinterpreted in their own interpretation wrongly to mean what they say, and you know what's being said, and Dr. Poole's just got no idea what's happening. Again, the whole thing relies heavily on wordplay, assumption, innuendo, misdirection, and, well, I suppose miscommunication. So you've got to be paying attention. You've got to listen. You can't just brain dead through this one, because it really does leave you in the dirt if you haven't been keeping up with the movie from the start. The script and dialogue, it's fast, it's funny, and it's clever. I'm very happily giving this one a 3.75. Fun factor. Okay, well, personally, I find this movie a delight. This is an entertaining, good time. Sit down, have a laugh, enjoy something slightly more cerebral, and it feels like almost 2 hours very well spent. I watch this movie at least annually. It's a family tradition, and we love it. So I will admit I am quite biased on that side of things. I am going to give this one a 3.5. I'd give it much higher than that, but I'm aware of my bias. So I'm just going to ratchet it back a bit. But fun factor, 3.5. No, I can't. It has to be 3.75. Yeah. Okay, 3.75. Final score. Okay, you add all this up and you get yourself an 18.25. Now, some of you may disagree with me, but I personally believe this one has earned that score. I absolutely recommend it. It's a light touch, genuinely funny, very clever MacGuffin hunt movie. Please comment down below, like and subscribe, share my review around, and as always, I hope that you're having a great week and you find some time to go and watch a movie.